What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up.
Aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron here. I am your host, and this is the Art of Vibrant Living show. And yes, hopefully we will entertain you. More important, empowerment, and that depends on you. So my invitation, take some of the gold that you get from Crystal Lynn today and put it into action in your life. As you watch, much wisdom will be coming from our beautiful, amazing guest today. Soak it in, feel the vibration, and then see what shifts in you and what you desire to do from that. Today's guest, Crystal Lynn Bell, helps women to stop surviving midlife and start savoring it. She's the founder of Badass Butterfly Alchemy Coaching and the creator of the Sensual Alchemy Method. From her home in Paris, she teaches high-performing women how to move through burnout and into a radiant, creative, soul-powered rebirth. How good does that sound? Her work blends nervous system healing, spiritual intelligence, and sensuality as a path to the feminine power. How cool. Awesome. Crystal Lynn, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. It's great that you are here. And let's dive in, right? Because in worlds that I inhabit, the word alchemy is thrown around a lot. I hear the word badass quite a bit. Certainly hear coaching quite a bit. You put these words and butterfly together. How come? What does it mean to you?
I love that question. And yeah, all those things are thrown around and they all have different meanings for different people. For me, I'm going to start with alchemy because that's the word you started with, and I think it almost is my favorite word out of all of them, but I don't know because they're all very close to my heart. But for me, I see alchemy as being this thing that we're all living, and its power and its energy and its transformation. So we are constantly living alchemy all the time. We are, when you and I are having a conversation right now, this is alchemy in action. You've asked a question. That is coming and starting a fire inside of me. So for me, fire is one of the primary elements of alchemy. And so it's lighting a fire. I get to bring my passion. So my heart is warm, and that's creating transformation inside of me. My brain is working, my heart is working. And I'm bringing out some knowledge, right? So that knowledge that I'm giving is hopefully pure and clear. And what people do with that knowledge is going to be totally up to them. Maybe they're going to take it and chew on it. Maybe they're going to take whatever I say and apply it to their lives. But that is what alchemy is to me. It's this process of taking an idea and then transforming it. So for me as a coach, I use alchemy in a very, very structured way. I take my clients through a process of alchemy. And that means that we start off looking at what their shadows are, where their challenges are, where the lead is. Alchemists are traditionally people who transform lead into gold. So for me, the lead is the egoic self, the shadow self, or I should say the unevolved ego self. And it's, old trauma and things like that are kind of holding the person back, prohibiting them from living their greatest potential, which is ultimately the goal that we want to get through. And so I use a system of fire and to take them through different things. So we start off with fire as being destructive. So we're going to burn down the illusion of the three-dimensional world. We're going to burn down the illusion of of who they think they are. Oh, I think I'm human. I think I'm a mom. I think I'm an employee. I think I'm all these different things. We're going to burn down all those false identities. And we're going to do a lot of healing there. And then we're going to use fire in a different way. We're going to start firing up that passion, getting them to look at who they truly are and what they really want to bring into the world. We want to look at where their creativity is, where the relationship is with the divine feminine, where their sexual energy is. And then that last way that we use fire is where we're bringing it out into the world and we're manifesting. So that is generative fire. That's also bringing that sexual energy into the world to give birth, to create their ideas and their dreams. So for me, this is a long answer to your question. So sorry, but you asked. You shouldn't have asked if you didn't want to hear the whole answer. So that to me is alchemy. So for me, Badass Butterfly Alchemy means that this is a journey of transforming from a caterpillar into a butterfly. It is a true metamorphosis. It's a true transmutation. It's not just, oh, I'm a caterpillar who's molting and growing. This is actually true change, where you go from being a human being to being in your higher self, your greatest potential. And it's a real transformation that we work toward.
Okay, perfect. Well, so thank you. And I love that we got fire coming from all angles here. So it's getting hot. And that, I'm with you, that's a key for transformation. You are lighting people up. And so as you spoke about the butterfly and transformation, one of the things I've heard you say is part of what you teach and what a lot of us need in order to thrive, especially as coaches, is to move from being a spiritual seeker to a spiritual CEO. So if I heard that right, will you say more about that? What does that, well, what does that mean? And also, how did you do that? What was the moment where you realized, like, hey, I'm not a seeker, I'm a CEO now?
Yeah, that's cute. That's funny. I've not used those phrases before. So, okay, spiritual seeker, I guess, is someone who is kind of questioning where they are, I'm assuming. And I've never really considered myself to be a spiritual seeker. I've always been a spiritual knower, and I assume that people who are actively seeking, I get that, totally. Stepping into that role of the spiritual CEO, I guess that means you're the chief operating officer, CEO, chief executive officer of your own life, right? So I imagine that is having authorship of your life, right? You're the one who's in charge, you're the one who's in command. And so yes, what was the question, Daniel?
Well, that was great. I love what you said, and perhaps I misremembered. So, well, let's key in on something that you just said there. You've never considered yourself a spiritual seeker. You've considered yourself a spiritual knower. And my sense is that you use those words specifically. Will you say more? What does that mean? What's the difference between a seeker and a knower in this context?
Well, I personally, I've always just known that God or life force energy or the universe, I'm not particularly religious, so I mean this kind of just unconditional love, this intelligence is what I understand God to be. Unconditional, loving, intelligent, super creative, and super here for us to use as we want. So I never really identified with being a spiritual seeker because I've always had a relationship with that. Always. And I am aware, though, that other people are not in that position and they are seeking. Again, those aren't really words that I normally use, but I'm curious about them, and I like words, and I like playing with them. And I imagine that a person who is seeking spirituality has been called. Because why else would you be seeking something if you weren't called to it, right? So I think that if I were going to take a person from being a spiritual seeker to what I think a spiritual CEO would be, is someone would be like helping them find, number one, would be that personal relationship with the divine, not as through me. I might be there to help, but I'm not the leader. I'm simply a channel, right? And helping them have that feeling of connection to the divine would be the number one thing. And I think, when we think about the movie The Matrix, and I know like all the spiritual people love the movie The Matrix, and I'm myself is included, right? But one of the things I like to think about my clients and students as being Neo, and I get to play the role Morpheus. And what I think that Neo was a spiritual seeker. Something was calling him. Something was saying, hey, come find me. And the wonderful thing that he did was he just said yes to it. And he wouldn't, he kept giving it space in his life, right? And it's a path, and that's a wonderful path that we get to unfold. Moving into those different levels where he was learning the different things and then dying to his old self and then giving birth to his new self and then not being able to go back, not to revert back. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about being a badass butterfly. You start off as a caterpillar, and once you can die in the process of being a caterpillar, and in the transformation, the chrysalis, you can die in there. Just because you go in the chrysalis doesn't mean you're coming out. You have to come out, you have to then survive, right? And for me, that butterfly is not something you cannot go back to being a caterpillar once you truly become the butterfly. And this is one of the things I try to help people understand. That, caterpillars molt, they grow, right? They burst through their skin. That's not a transformation. That's just a growth, and those things are really important. But this whole thing of transmutation, where the old self truly dies and the new self is truly reborn, you really cannot go back to the old addictions. You cannot go back to the old kind of relationships. You can't go back to doing things in the same old way. So for me, that process of going from spiritual seeker to spiritual CEO is about making that transformation. If you're a CEO, you're not going to go back to being an employee, not in your same business. It's not going to work that way. Even if you want to have a beginner's mind. I'm talking a lot. I will pause.
Well, I love everything you're saying. So it's wonderful. Thank you. And what you're describing in terms of this transformation process, the butterfly is not going to say, oh, I think I'm going to go back and be a caterpillar again. It doesn't work that way. And I'm guessing that since you are leading people in this, there's a truism that we teach what we know, and we know what we know through our experience. So what was it for you? How did you go from being a caterpillar to a butterfly in your life? What was, I'm sure there have been many moments that have been deep transformational moments for you. That's why you are doing what you do now. But what's one that stands out for you that we can learn from?
Well, this is interesting because I've only made one transformation into this butterfly life. I've had a lot of molting, right? And so in nature, caterpillars eat, right? They eat and they eat and they eat. They munch on leaves, they munch on flowers, they eat, and then they grow and they burst through their skin, right? And that is called molting. It's what happens in nature. And I think that that's what we do in life. And I believe that that is what I have done in my life many times. And a caterpillar will molt many, many times. But there was only one time that I truly died. And there was only one time that I truly awakened. And I will never go back. And everything changed. So one of the things that's interesting with caterpillars is that they eat a lot. They're constantly eating and growing. And I know I keep saying that, but what that means to me as a human is that we're taking in life. We're eating physically, we're eating, but we're also taking in experiences, we're learning, and there are lots of things that are informing us and helping, they're adding to our growth and our development. And there comes that point, though, and for me, this really happens with middle age. Middle-aged men, middle-aged women, it happens at middle age. And that's when Uranus gets halfway around the zodiac, right? And that's, Uranus is the planet of revolution. It's the planet of rebirth. It's breaking what's outmoded. And it's tearing down what no longer serves. So when we're born, Uranus is stationed where it's stationed. For wherever it is for you, that's where it's stationed for you. You're born into the world. And that birth, you coming into the world, is your first revolution, right? This is huge. You're born into the world, and it's the opportunity to completely create something. So when Uranus gets to the halfway point in the zodiac, where you are 44, you're middle-aged, you're entering that period of your life, it's another revolution. And that time is when the transformation or the transmutation, the alchemy really becomes very, very real in your life. And you can see it. We call it a midlife crisis for a reason. We call it a crisis, but it's a sacred initiation. It's not something about, like, we have that kind of idea of the older guy who's looking for younger women and he wants a sports car, and we're kind of criticizing him for that. But actually, we need to be celebrating him for that, because what he's doing is he's being called to something, right? Here's, I think, where we might say a spiritual seeker, right? I'm starting to like that term, Daniel, thank you. But he's looking for something. It's a calling that he has. And that calling is not something because he's irresponsible. It's because Uranus is saying, hey, dude, you got to revolutionize your life. But of course, we have media that's saying, okay, we need younger, we need better, we need faster, you have to de-age. But actually, if we nurture ourselves and we truly settle down and we listen to our soul, we will discover that there's more to it. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with an older man who wants to date a younger woman. When I went through this phase, I awakened to something I had no idea that was inside me. She was a writer who insisted that her books get published not on Amazon, but that, she writes actually a book, she types it out, it gets printed, it gets sent to major publishing houses, and she would settle for nothing less. It wasn't about her becoming a New York Times bestseller. It's that she did that thing without backing down and without trying to sneak in through the side door and this kind of thing. And that's Uranus at work. That's the midlife crisis. And for me, that's where the caterpillar has to die, because in order for you to break free from those old mindsets, those old limiting behaviors, those old beliefs, that whole self-concept has to get completely demolished, so that the new self, the butterfly self, can rise up and take over the entire life. And to me, Daniel, that is incredibly powerful, which is why it's Badass Butterfly Alchemy and not soft and gentle butterfly alchemy, as one lady told me. She said, "Why isn't it soft and gentle butterfly?" And I'm like, well, because it's kind of hard.
I'm with you. Yeah, there's that great story about the well-wishing farmer who sees the caterpillar struggling in the cocoon and wants to help it, right? And so cuts a little slit, but the caterpillar hadn't done the work to strengthen, and so it couldn't fly. So I'm with you. Yeah, it makes sense that it's badass. It does take some effort, intention, and work, and fire, and I know you've got a new book that we're going to talk about in a moment. And you're working specifically with women in their midlife, right? And why has your work evolved in that way? And will you just tell us about this new book?
Yeah, sure. And when you ask why my work has evolved in this way, do you mean particularly for women?
Yeah, sure.
Or do you mean like the midlife thing?
Well, both, I suppose. Either, whatever you feel called to respond to.
Yeah, well, okay, thank you for that. So, midlife women can get really confused because they see midlife as a crisis, and they see it as a problem. They think they're getting old. They think that menopause is the problem. And they think that there's a lot of fear and anxiety, and that comes along with these hormonal changes. And it does not help that the body is giving some very strong signals that something's wrong. The menstrual cycle is off, the hair is thin and dry, the joints hurt, there are hot flashes. And for me, the thing that I discovered was that all of those things were actually the death of the old self and the rebirth of the new self. And I remember when I was having some hot flashes, I remember noticing that those hot flashes came every time my ego flared, and that ego was flaring every time spirit was asserting itself. So, for example, I was having a conversation, this is just something I'll never forget. I was sitting in my bed, meditating, writing in my journal, and I had this feeling of love that came over me, and immediately that hot flash started. And what happened was my ego said, "Oh no, this is not okay. There's something wrong. This is not good. I do not like this." And I'm like, wait a second. Every time. And so that's when I started to notice that every time I was getting out of my comfort zone, I had a hot flash. All I had to do was to listen to what was beneath the hot flash. This body is not random. It is not random. And I'm tired of midlife women being kind of taught that your body is random, you have no say over what's happening in your body. And you do have say. You may not be able to control it, and I don't encourage people to control things using, start with the self first, and listen, and then start using some herbs and whatever medicines you want to use, but don't go first to medicine where you're treating the symptoms and you're not actually dealing with what's going on inside with the soul. So I don't remember what the question was, Daniel. I'm so sorry. I got distracted.
That's all good. I appreciate what you're saying. It's really interesting, and I'm sure that reframing of hot flashes is something that would really be powerful for a lot of women to hear, because certainly in my secondhand experience, I hear I've only heard about the challenge and discomfort, and what I hear from you is you're not saying that there isn't challenge or discomfort, that it's part of something bigger though. So anyway, the question was about the book, and if I'm remembering correctly, you have a gift for our audience. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. So this is not the book that my star self is working on. That is a process. But I do have ebooks, which I use to get information out information out to people now. So I'm not waiting until my book is written. I still keep getting people information. So the book is called The Midlife Makeover, a high performing woman's guide to reclaiming pleasure, power, and purpose. And it is, I lost you, Daniel. Hold on, sorry. There we go. So, it's for midlife women to look at where they are and to reframe this whole thing as something that is very empowering, as the transformation from caterpillar to badass butterfly, where she is authoring her life and really reclaiming. To me, it's reclaiming my youth. I don't mean that this is about getting younger, but honestly, this is the best that I've ever felt. Like, I'm the healthiest, I'm the strongest, I'm the most clear. I'm in my authority in a way that I've never been, and it's sexier. It's more magnetic, and look, I have a lot of young, beautiful women around me. All right, and I'm not even trying to say that I can compete with these young women with their beauty, but there's something about understanding that what I attract is what I desire. It's what I am. And I can stay focused on what I desire, and I realize that I have all that I want. So there's a lot of power in doing that. And so for me, getting a woman in her midlife to stop trying to do so much and stop trying to fix herself so much, and to move more into a place of sensuality, to move more into a place of just stillness, and allowing that stillness to actually do the work for her. I think that's very powerful.
Okay, super cool. Thank you. So this ebook sounds fantastic. How can people access that?
Yeah, I have that all in the link. I think it's in the link that I've given to your team. So it should be with the show notes there. They can download it. You'll go to the website, just pop in your name and email, and you can download it from that link.
Okay, we will certainly put that link into the show notes. Is it something that, for the people that are with us live now, is it something you can speak out, or is it too big and complicated?
I can actually speak it out. Let me do that. It is, well, it's a little bit long, but here we go.
We got
badassbutterflyalchemy.com/midlife-makeover-ebook.
Oh, perfect. And they're all words that we can understand and
That's right.
lift us up. I love it. Okay. Well, Crystal Lynn, time is flying along for us here. So we are just about at the end of our time. It goes so fast. And that brings me around to the last question, the big question. Can I ask you the big question?
Go ahead.
It's so big, you could never get it. However, it's so big, it's so impossible, you can't get it wrong either. And I say all of that only a little bit joking, because you have so much experience and wisdom to bring. And now if I ask you, as I ask you to condense that, to distill it into just one thing, if you've got one thing to share with our audience to help them to live their most vibrant, thriving life, what's that one thing?
Burn this shit down, man. Like burn down the house. Burn down the illusion. Burn down your old beliefs. Burn down burn down your old mindsets. Burn down the habits. Burn down the old self-concept. And allow your new self to rise, just like a phoenix goes down in flames. Burn it down. And let your new self rise and nurture her. Give her everything she needs, and understand that she's got innate wisdom, because you've already done the hard work. So just you've already done the hard work. Let her live and let her thrive, and you will live a life that was so very different than you did before.
Amazing. Well, and I love that we started with fire upon fire, and we arrive at burning it down. From the ashes comes the new life. So fantastic, awesome. Crystal Lynn, thank you so much for the work you're doing in the world, and for taking this time out to share with our audience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel. It's so great to connect with you.
You are welcome. Likewise, and for y'all in our audience, thank you. You are the heroes of this show. Remember, wisdom isn't just knowing stuff in the head. Wisdom is integrating it into your body and putting it into action in your life. So go grab Crystal Lynn's ebook. Take something that came to you as she was speaking and put it into action. Try it out. Be bold. I love you. Thank you for being with us. I will see you again soon. Aloha.
Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.